We had an absolutely delightful rain last night and this morning, and thusly it is a wonderful morning to come out here and look for some surprises in the garden. I think any of us that garden with any kind of intensity at all, this is one of our favorite things to do in the morning. We go out, we look to see what seeds have germinated, what is now in bloom that wasn't in bloom before, what little surprises that we might encounter of all kinds, whether it's insect wildlife or it's something we seeded but forgot that we had done so. So today I'm going to show you exactly what I found on my hunt for garden surprises. It took me a long time as a gardener to learn that I really have to look with intention when I go outside. I can't just casually take a glance at things, but I really need to look more deeply, and not just for problems in the garden, but also for good things in the garden. So one happy surprise, well, maybe not so much of a surprise, is the beautiful Eden rose that has now scaled the top of the awning and will soon begin to creep over it. Now I just need some lateral growth to fill in. But that's not the surprise I wanted to show you. The surprise is over here on a different rose. And it is on the apple blossom rose that has, while the other was scaled the top of the door and the awning, this one is scaling the Yopon holly tree right near it. So you can see how those long cascading canes of that rose are beginning to climb and crawl up the Yopon hollies. This is an effect that I've seen in European gardens many times, where they somehow manage to get roses to scale trees, to climb up into even the canopy of the trees. But I have never been able to replicate the look. And so here now, without any effort on my part, Mother Nature found a way, and think how beautiful that will be when it blooms not only at the lower level and cascades over the brick wall on the east side, but also on a different level as it blooms up into the Yopon holly tree. So that is my surprise number one. Surprise number two may be difficult for you to see, but I had kind of just I had broadcast some seeds of cosmos in this area where I had removed, I can't remember what I removed from over here, but I broadcast some cosmos seeds and I completely forgot that I had done so. And surprise, surprise, some of them are germinating and they will bloom after the foxglove has finished. I'll need to pinch them. And look, it looks like a zinnia. So this area will be filled with things. It may be barren now, but it will be filled with little surprise cosmos later on in the season. So that's my surprise number two. Surprise number three, and by the way, you guys need to make sure to wait until the end because that's where my best surprise happened yesterday, actually, and I want to show it to you. But I'm kind of surprised. I didn't realize that the foxglove were going to grow and bloom in tandem with the It's a Breeze rose, and sure enough, they are. They've gotten enough light so that they're actually showing some color. And again, it's kind of a surprise to me because I guess I planted them in areas that I had forgotten about. Most of these did come up from transplants that I intentionally located, but there's lots of seedlings that I have noticed have germinated. The other thing that's kind of a surprise in this area are these alliums. So I planted, this is a different variety of allium that I got from Color Blends, and I'm going to have to look it up. And I kind of planted them in kind of a drift along this path that goes over to the east side. But then in the distance, there are some more alliums. You can see their nodding heads just under kind of a bough of Kaleidoscopabilia. And the surprise to me was I thought all of these were the same variety, but they apparently are not. One blooms in a more purple, darker purple way and shorter, and the others grow in a taller way and in a more lavender hue. So I'll go back down to that area and show that to you. And that would be my surprise numbers 2 and 3, I guess. And there are the nodding heads of the 2 alliums I referred to earlier, blooming, I think, just beautifully in tandem with that penstemon. And how sweet are those arching heads? And they are in a lighter color and considerably taller. So hopefully those will come back again next year and the bulbs won't rot in place. There's more of them over here. Completely different effect with the backdrop of that orange rocket barberry. So I guess I had forgotten, which would not be unusual, or I recorded incorrectly that there were 2 different kinds of alliums. Now let's take a break here. Oh, by the way, Thunder Nation is everywhere right now, and in fact, there was a photographer here from the Thunder last night taking a picture of the skeleton over there who is all decked out in Thunder gear. Basketball and everything. You can't see the basketball behind the car, but it's kind of fun. And when we come back, I'll show you another surprise that has absolutely delighted me. Well, here is, I think, surprise number 4. Forgive me if my counting is off. Stuart can maybe correct that in editing. Look at the beautiful larkspur. And boy, has this stuff loved the rain. But here is something I'm so excited about. When we were at the zoo, I showed you some of the baptisia that was blooming in yellow, but look here. Mine has put out buds. It did not bloom last year, and it's blooming this year in this very characteristic signature color that I love so much. Many of you love it as well. It's not exclusive to me. I've got another one over here. It's not doing anything right now, but I do see, ooh, look, there's another surprise. I see a little bud right there. But I've never grown this before and had it bloom. So the fact that I've got 2 blooms on it now, and they are blooming at the same time as the like-colored larkspur, well, my goodness, that makes me happy. And you talk about a delightful surprise. That is it. I also had some surprise visitors yesterday from Nashville. They were en route to our beloved New Mexico that we love so much. It's one of the best things about gardening, all the surprises. And here's a vantage of those foxglove from over here on the east berm. Over here on the east side, let's talk about some surprise. I guess an idea that you haven't had before can be a surprise. And you may recall that in the spring or earlier this month, there were all sorts of tulips that marched up and down the wall on the east side, much to the delight, I think, of passersby. And boy, let's just take a moment to look at that Obsession nandina and that orange rocket barberry and the kaleidoscope abelia. But I digress. And I enjoyed that so much, that rhythm and repetition of the color marching up and down the wall, that I thought, well, maybe it would be an idea to do the same with summer color that would really be able to handle the heat on this side. And so I have put in some of this. I'm not sure if I'm not sure the variety. It's one of those bicolored lantanas that blooms in pink, hot pink and orange and gold. And I thought in the fall and in the summer it would be beautiful blooming in tandem with all of this Obsession Nandina, and it will get huge. And then hopefully, in my imagination, it cascades down over the wall in a series of spectacular bursts of color from one end, here's another one, to the other. And here would be surprise number 6, I guess, the first bloom on those apple blossom roses. I'm just now noticing this. I'm spreading some of that sedum around for it to cascade over the wall on this side. I just pinched off some stems and stuck it in the ground, and it will be right before you get to another little lantana and another 2 bunches of lantana. There's one that punctuates the end of the wall down there. Small lantana now, but soon to be large. And then here's where you can see how the apple blossom rose from this angle is growing up into that Yopon holly. Here was one of my surprises last year, and that were these beautiful lilac-y pink, purple orchids, garden orchids that seemed to appear out of nowhere. They must have been hijacked or hitchhikers. They must have hitchhiked in from my friend Gail Wynn's garden. And then look at that beautiful color echo with that pen stem, and which was another surprise. That was just some seed that I tossed out last year. And surprisingly, it is blooming in tandem with the garden orchid, and I think it's absolutely just lovely. And then it's really beginning to look romantic with that rose that's climbing up and over the window. It's nice when a plan comes together and a vision is actualized. Think what it'll look like when all of that lantana is in bloom and spilling over the edge in the summer and in the fall. And I don't know that these are necessarily surprises. I saw them the other day, but look at all the buds on that Gara and how beautiful those white whirling butterflies will look blooming with the larkspur. And then I'm noticing over here all sorts of blooms now on this yarrow, this white yarrow. Looky here. And then the mums that you see in the background, those are the white mums that I planted from last year. And I need to do another Chelsea chop on those. And then I found a third little clump of it growing in a pot, and I planted more of it over here. Well, here are some surprises, actually both good and bad. And that is, I've got some big fat buds on the ambassador allium here along Lemon Lane. But I also have some really large tufts of foliage, which typically comes up first, but I see no evidence of buds. And all of these that I planted along this north end of Lemon Lane are putting out foliage, but I'm not seeing any buds yet. So that has me rather distressed. And I'm hoping that they are delayed and not, just, I don't know, if the bulbs rotted or if there was something that is keeping them from blooming. So I'm hoping I'm just impatient and it's not a problem with the bulbs. Excuse the trash truck. I don't shoot on this west side as much, partly because a lot of what comes into bloom comes in later in the summer, but it's kind of fun to take a look at the garden from this vantage point versus the other. I am going to have to contain this It's a Breeze rose because it's just mammoth. And look here, I've got Veronica here and some of those beautiful leucanthemum from Southern Living that it's beginning to shade out. So I am going to have to reduce the size of it. But there's more foxglove over here. And then look, surprise, surprise, all the fat buds on the Dear Dolores hydrangeas that all bloom on new wood. No sign of buds yet on the white weddings, but that's a surprise for a later time. I've lost count on the number of surprises. Maybe we're on 7 or 8. But here's a surprise. Actually, I knew it was in here, but I forgot about it. So it's a renewed surprise to me, and that's a huge Cleome seedling in here with lots of other little plants that have gone to seed and bloomed even at the base of these topiaries. And by the way, if you struggle with getting plants to germinate or certain seeds to germinate, for me sometimes that's foxglove, if you just sprinkle them around the base of a really large planter like this one, all too often they will, both the weedy guys, but also the good guys will germinate. And here's an example. Look at this tiny, sweet, sweet little salvia. Wouldn't it look dear in one of those tiny little clay pots of Carolina Elizabeths? Here are some more larkspur that are blooming in one of the forgotten places in between the hollies and the brick wall on the west side. And I've got something really fun to show you as we go to the back. And excuse my mess in this work area, but looky here. I am getting ready to cut this bad girl and bring her inside to do an arrangement that will replace the kind of lemon-inspired bouquet that I did on the island for Easter. But this is one of those double amaryllis that I got from Color Blends that were blooming around Christmas. But sometimes when you save the bulbs, they will bloom in the summer too. And I just replanted the bulbs into this plastic bucket. I haven't even done it with any intentionality. But nevertheless, look at this beautiful bloom. Well, I've been checking with this rain to see if any of my scattered seed experiments, my gardening risks worth taking, have materialized. None of the forget-me-nots are appearing in this area. And by the way, I tossed them out. My intention was they needed to really tough it out on their own. I wasn't going to do any kind of soil amendment. I wasn't even going to rough up the soil at all. I just wanted it to be quick and easy and use up some seeds that were perhaps not viable anymore. Look at here's another gardening experiment. I'm going to plant some of these bulbs, some of these tulip bulbs that came out clean. And here's another reason that they just don't bloom as well if you keep them to come back year after year. And that is the size of the bulbs when I got them for color blends were probably 2 to 3 times this size. These blooms, or these bulbs, after blooming now are pretty much spent. Nevertheless, I'm going to try. I haven't gotten around to it yet, and the ground will be much more pliable now that it's rained. And I am just going to try planting some of them. Look at the colors of the foliage, though, that pink and green. Isn't it beautiful? Looky here. That's a pleasant surprise. But the reason we are back here is to see if any of the seeds that I tossed out here have germinated. And there's the larkspur. I believe I've showed that to you in a video before. But here's the surprise. I don't remember tossing them. And probably they won't bloom really well because I tossed them too late. Ideally, it would have been in the fall. But I see evidence of some little poppies here. So if I can just get a few of them to grow up to be big girls and go to seed here and get a seed bed established here, seedings that perpetuate themselves, that would be wonderful. And I thought I saw, yes, I do. Look here. Here's a whole little cluster of poppy seeds. And these were the pepperbox bread seed poppies. And ooh, I see lots of them over there. So if just a few of them bloom, if the season is long enough, the cool season is long enough for them to grow up and bloom, that'll be wonderful. I don't see any evidence of the hollyhocks that I planted back here. But I'm going to take having 2 things go to seed and germinate back here a win. I'm going to call that a win. Larkspur and poppies. And with all this rain and then the heat that will come along shortly, they should shoot up in absolutely no time. And this isn't a surprise, but it's a big thank you to you guys who recommended that I plant the red salvia, the Southern Living salvia, in the ground instead of putting it in pots. And my instinct, because this soil back here isn't great, it's very heavy, very clay filled, and usually my default is to put things in a pot. So when you guys recommended that I put them in the ground, and basically that was a unanimous vote on your part, I've decided to do that. I'm going to plant them up and along the path that comes from the back into the front. And I think they'll be beautiful. I'll amend the soil a little bit so it's not quite so gummy and so heavy. But salvia, in general, are really tough, and I think they will be fine on their own. So thank you. Thank you for that. And boy, these reds really pop on a cloudy day. Some of you were laughing at me because I stuffed so many of those sun patiens into one pot. And yeah, over time, one would have filled it, and I should have been patient, but patience is not my strong suit. So I can't talk today. I need another cup of coffee. So I'll probably be pricking some of those out as they get too crowded, but I really, for a number of different reasons, want them to be full almost immediately. Well, here's another pleasant surprise. I don't know if I can get focus on these or not, but I'm no Stuart Perriman, but I am happily surprised to see lots of new green growth coming out of the top ball of this 3-ball Eugenia. And I did feed it. And now with this rain, it should really be responding. The other thing that was such an initial surprise to me, but that I'm thrilled at, and that's that the Miss Figgy figs came out, and they're coming out as trees. They're not coming out just as with lots of foliage on at just the base. They're coming out as full-blown small trees, and that thrills me no end. Another happy surprise is that these arborvitae that I planted here right before it got cold, and then I didn't water them enough. My bad. They don't seem to be dead either. Always a good thing when you're surprised if something isn't dead. And they're putting out new growth. I gave them a feed, and I think they will be beautiful eventually. I'm hoping so anyway. I'm trying to be optimistic. Now, this was a fun and very unexpected surprise. I found a package of radishes that had fallen to the bottom of one of my storage bins, and some water had seeped in, and so the package of them got wet. And then, let me know if this has ever happened to you, my question of the day. Some of them, if not all of them, had practically germinated inside the packet. I could barely even separate them. So since it was still raining, I just tossed them in here into my greens bed, which are sporting some very interesting mushrooms right now, since we've had more rain than usual. But a lot of them, look here, a lot of them germinated, and I just kind of tossed them in there, not really expecting them to do much of anything. And obviously they need to be thinned out, but those thinnings will make delicious little radish sprouts to put on a salad. I put some calibrachoa, or some million bells, into the corner of this planter, this raised planter, and also I've got some red ones in the center here of my little herb garden. And then over here in the tomato bed, I planted another one in that corner. And look, I have some little buds, some tomato flowers. So I'm hoping that then I'll get this cascade of bloom of these yellow and red blooms on each corner for some fun symmetry back here where the raised beds are. And here is my last and most fun surprise. I had requested these to see if Southern Living could send me these quite a while ago, and I thought that maybe they were just out of the inventory of them, so I didn't expect them to arrive. They arrived yesterday, and oh my goodness, these begonias, it's a new obsession of mine. These interesting leaved begonias, and they sent me 3 pots, and the variety is Sterling Moon. I don't know if you can read that. Let's see here if I can help that along. Sterling Moon. These are gorgeous. They have some big, let me see if I can find one, some big fat buds on them already. And I'm deciding where I'm going to put them. Look at that foliage. It's just exquisite. So one of them I want to bring indoors. I want it to be in my bathroom because I think that'll be really beautiful, because the colors in there are very appropriately matched by the colors in this beautiful, beautiful plant. And then I'm going to show you where I'm going to put another one. And I'm so excited about this. Until recently, this alleyway kind of on the west side of my house. It's more of just a utility path from the front to the back, and also to provide good drainage, is proving to be kind of a gardening opportunity that gets more light in this kind of enclosed area than I would have expected. And some of you suggested that I really needed to put something in this olive urn that's right outside that kitchen window. And I think one of these sterling begonias are going to be fabulous in here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to plant it in a larger pot, a larger plastic pot that it's in already. And then I'm kind of losing my focus here. Forgive me, you guys. And then I'm just going to set that pot into the urn. And that will enable me to just pull it out if it gets too hot over in here, too bright over in here during the summer. And definitely I can then bring it in the winter. Hopefully I can keep it alive. And then this is going to be, I've decided, just since I kind of have a new obsession with begonias, kind of my begonia garden over here. And some of the other begonias that I've got on the back porch now that we pruned back and took some clippings from, I will pot some of those up, and then I'll have some of these dragon wing begonias in here. And this whole fenced area will be a little begonia garden. And I will so enjoy looking out at it from my kitchen window. So thank you guys for the idea to put something in the urn. And I think I was leaning towards Platinum Beauty Lamandra, and then I saw these begonias. Look at the big buds there. So that was my last and absolutely best surprise that arrived on my doorstep last night. But every day the garden is filled with surprises, both good and bad, but we take them both because we're gardeners after all, and that's what we do. You guys have a wonderful Thursday. Look forward to your plans for the weekend ahead. And tell me what's going on in your gardens.